Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhav, Radha Madhav, Radha Madhav, Jaya Radha Madhav. Jaya Nrsingadev, 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 Jaya Prahlad Maharaj. Jaya Panchatattva, 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 Jaya Panchatattva. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Shri Shri Radha Madhava Ashtaki Vrinda ki, Shri Shri Nrsingadev Bhagavan ki, Bhaktaraj Prahlad Maharaj ki, Shri Shri Ananta Dev ki, Shri Shri Panchatattva ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Mukhakaroti Vachalam Pangoram Gayate Girim Yatkripatamaham Vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Jayapataka Swaminiti Namine Namacharya Padaya Nitai Kripa Pradayine Gaurakata Damadaya Nagaragrama Tarine Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jayo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 5, Text number 12. Naishkarmyamapi achyuta bhava varjitam na shobhate jnanamalam niranjanam kuta punas sashvada bhadramishvare na charpitam karmayadapi akaranam Naishkarmyamapi achyuta bhava varjitam na shobhate jnanamalam niranjanam kuta punas shashvada bhadramishvare na charpitam karmayadapi akaranam Naishkarmyamapi achyuta bhava varjitam na shobhate jnanamalam niranjanam kuta punas shashvada bhadramishvare na charpitam karmayadapi akaranam Shashvadamadrishare Vaishnavis Naishkarmamapi achyuta bhava varjitam na shobhate jnanamalam niranjanam kuta punas shashvada bhadramishvare na charpitam karma yadapi akaranam. Word by word translation, if you like to repeat. Naishkarmyam, self-realization, being freed from all reactions of fruitive work. Api, in spite of. Achyuta, the infallible Lord. Bhava, conception. Varjitam, devoid of. Na, does not. Shobhate, look well. Jnanam, transcendental knowledge. Alam, by and by. Niranjanam, free from designations. Kuta, where is. Punaha, again. Shashvata, always. Abhadram, uncongenial. Ishvare, unto the Lord. Na, not. Cha, and. Arpitam, offered. Karma, fruitive work. Yat api, what is. Akaranam, not fruitive. Translation. Knowledge of self-realization, even though free from all material affinity, does not look well if devoid of a conception of infallible God. What then is the use of fruitive activities which are naturally painful from the very beginning and transient by nature if they are not utilized for the devotional service of the Lord? Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. As referred to above, not only ordinary literatures devoid of transcendental glorification of the Lord are condemned, but also Vedic literatures and speculation on the subject of impersonal Brahman when they are devoid of devotional service. Once speculation on the impersonal Brahman is condemned on the above ground, then what to speak of ordinary fruitive work, which is not meant to fulfill the aim of devotional service? Such speculative knowledge and fruitive work cannot lead one to the goal of perfection. Fruitive work, in which almost all people in general are engaged, is always painful, either in the beginning or at the end. It can be fruitful only when made subservient to devotional service of the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita, also it is confirmed that the result of such fruitive work may be offered for the service of the Lord. Otherwise, it leads to material bondage. The bona fide enjoyer of the fruitive work is the personality of Godhead, and thus, when it is engaged for the sense gratification of the living beings, it becomes an acute source of trouble. If you like to repeat the translation, knowledge of self-realization, even though free from all material affinity, does not look well if devoid of a conception of the infallible God. What then is the use of fruitive activities, which are naturally painful from the very beginning and transient by nature, if they're not utilized for the devotional service of the Lord? Such a powerful section of Srimad Bhagavatam. This is Narad Muni speaking to Vyasadeva. And the desire itself is such trouble. It's misery. The cause of misery is desire. Cause of misery is expectations. There are 3 stages of desire. First stage, when I'm hankering for something, I want something. I want this person. I want this thing. I want that position. I want that property. That want, that longing, that hankering, that desire itself shows that I feel incomplete. I feel something is lacking. That lack I experience is miserable. It's painful from the beginning till the end. So that's the first stage, when the longing is not fulfilled. When I want something, or when I want somebody, when I think I need something, when I think I need someone to make me feel better. This is the bondage of desire. The second stage is, okay, I have that thing I wanted. I have that person I wanted. Then what? Does it end? No, it doesn't end. Immediately pops up another desire. I have this phone, but I want the latest phone. I got this person to reply to my message, but I want the person to say a certain thing to me. I made friends with this person, but I want that person to love me more. I want that person to dedicate themselves more to me. I want more commitment from that person. It doesn't end. That's the nature. Desire is that fire. It's that thirst. It's that hunger, insatiable hunger, an addictive thirst which does not get quenched by salty water that is available in this material world. Everything, everyone that I think is going to give me pleasure, that's going to fulfill my desires, my senses, is going to be the cause of pain and misery. This is the verdict. Now, I might decide to fool myself by saying, I'm going to try another way around. I'm going to try to feed myself like this. Maybe that will quench my thirst. Right? I'm going to add a little bit of sugar into that salt water, and maybe then I'm going to feel better. But my dear friends, it does not work. I have tried it. It does not work. Because that addictive thirst remains no matter how much validation I get from people, how much fame I get, how many likes I get on my posts on social media, no matter how many hands that clap for me, no matter how many people tell me they love me. If I don't quench myself with the pure water of Krishna consciousness that can happen within, from within, if I don't feel connected to Paramatma within, these desires will keep popping up just like weeds, making me feel miserable, whether it's a longing or it's that initial desire that I get, but immediately another desire pops up. That's the second stage. And the third stage is, this world is permanent, isn't it? Everything we get in this world is permanent. No, it's not. So the third stage is, everything is destined to die. Everything is destined to end. So there's disappointment. Somebody, a person, let's say a person A, when they don't have something they want, they have the longing, they may think, oh, they're not married, let's say. The person thinks, I want a woman. The woman, that's the longing. When the woman comes, is it ending? No, I want a house. The house comes, is it ending? No, I want a child. The child comes, does it end? No, I want the education for the child. I want this, I want that. So it never ends. And then when we get the person, jealousy may happen. We may fear to lose that person. Same thing with position. We may want a particular title. We may want a particular position. When we get it, does it end? No. I want more respect. I want people to treat me better. Why did that person not treat me better? Right? It continues. And one day that position is bound to end. That relationship is bound to disappoint me, because the material world is designed to make us humble. Every stage, every relationship, everything in this material world is destined to make me humble. Well, whether I'm going to choose to take that lesson or not, it's up to me. I might want to fool myself again and again and again, as I have been fooling myself for lifetimes. ಯೇಸುಕ ಎಂಗಳ ಕಳೆದು 84 ಲಕ್ಷ ಜೀವ ರಾಶಿಯನ್ನು ದಾಟಿ ಬಂದ ಈ ಶರೀರ ತಾನಲ್ಲ ತನ್ನದಲ್ಲ ಆಸೆ ಖರವಲ್ಲ ಮುಂದೆ ಬಾಹುದಲ್ಲ ದಾಸನಾಗು ವಿಶೇಷನಾಗು ಭವಪಾಶ ನೀಗು means to quench that thirst. There's only one way, and there's only one way to become a servant. And our Vaishnavacharyas recommend not just actions and activities of sadhana. Sadhana bhakti, we can definitely dovetail those desires in sadhana bhakti. So we're not talking about crushing that desire, removing that desire, destroying that desire, and becoming impersonal. That's exactly opposite of what Srila Prabhupada is speaking about in the purport. Instead, we can dovetail that when Prabhupada says, it can be fruitful only when made subservient to devotional service of the Lord. The relationship we may want, if we make Krishna the center, if we put Krishna before the relationship, the position, the title, the service we may be doing, if we put Krishna in the center, before our ego, before our needs, before our desires, then it becomes fruitful. Otherwise, it's a cause of bondage, Srila Prabhupada says. And this song that I just quoted is from Kanakadasa. Kanakadasa was actually an incarnation of Vidura. Vidura's incarnation. He is actually speaking about the difference, the balance between external sadhana and internal sadhana. Devotional service has two aspects. One is internal, one is external. Externally, I may wake up every day and go to Mangalarti. I may sing, I may chant, I may read Bhagavatam. I may serve the devotees with the body, with my muscles. I may do actions engaging my senses. But what about the worst enemy? The enemy that makes me keep going behind that addictive thirst, to quench that thirst with salty water. It's attracted to salty water. What about that? What about the sadhana that cannot be given by physical muscular activities, which is introspection? Bhaktivinoda Thakur speaks about introspection. For a devotee, introspection is the internal sadhana. What anarthas are popping up when I am performing devotional service? I cannot just chant 10 rounds and say, now I have humility. I cannot just chant 20 rounds and say, now I have compassion. I cannot buy humility no matter how many rounds I chant. I cannot buy humility no matter how many physical actions I perform. It has to be a conscious willingness to want to align with Krishna's will. Conscious willingness to surrender my weaknesses and my strengths at Krishna's lotus feet. It cannot come through external actions alone. That's the difficult part. Because we may say, I have only spiritual desires. Let me say, I might say, I'm talking, from a personal experience point of view. I may say, no, my desires are all spiritual. Everything is for Krishna. Is it? Am I fooling myself there? I've been carrying this addictive thirst for lifetimes. And when I look back into my own lifetime, this lifetime, from my childhood, when I look at my actions, when I look at my desires, when I look at the way I may use people, even sometimes spiritual knowledge, we could use spiritual knowledge in Maya. I might say, this is for Krishna, and only I know how much percentage is it Krishna and how much percentage is it my addictive thirst that I am covering with spiritual knowledge and trying internally behind my mask to quench my addictive thirst with the salty water of what I'm going to get through that action. Maybe power, maybe fame, maybe validation, maybe what I think is love, but it may be lust. Whatever I may be getting through that mask I may put as, this is my spiritual desire, and sometimes I may be fooling myself. I don't know myself that it's not spiritual. Now, let me make it clear. It's not bad for me or for us to have needs. We have certain needs, physical needs, emotional needs, mental needs, psychological needs. It's okay to have needs. And Krishna promises that He will fulfill our needs, if it's really our need. Sometimes it's not a need, it's a want. We think it's a need, but it's actually a want. It's that addictive thirst which is not going to be quenched. But Krishna knows what is our need. But the fact is this, material energy is so strong. Maya metam tarantite, Krishna says that it's his energy. It's so powerful. Sometimes I don't see how powerless I am in any given circumstance. I may be doing a perfectly authorized devotional activity in the eyes of the world, but my mind is tricking me. I'm thinking, oh, I make such beautiful garlands. Oh, I am so good at this. I am so good at giving a class. I know how to sing. People like my class. This is the addictive thirst, which is never going to be quenched. So, the percentage of how much I'm doing for Krishna and how much I'm actually putting myself in the center and being trapped into this salty water game that my own desires create for me. So this awareness can help big time to know that, look, this material world has salty water all around. What I'm actually looking for is pure water. And salty water comes in all shapes, all forms, all colors, in all kinds of things: power, position, fame, prestige, validation, relationships, friendships, children, wanting children to become the way we want them to be, wanting our spouses to behave the way we want, etc., etc., etc. We want our family members to be Krishna conscious. And we may actually project that what I know is best, and therefore they should be Krishna conscious the way I think Krishna consciousness is. That's the trap. That's the trap. Because it's very easy to justify Nanu nannadu yamba narakadolage biddu Nanu nannadu yamba narakadolage biddu Neene gati endu nambida dasana mele innu daya barade dasana mele. Me and mine, my ideas, my relationship, that's the trap. And what's the way out from that powerlessness of wrong identification? Neene gati endu, to go to Krishna and cry and tell Krishna, Krishna, this is my moral inventory. This is such a rascal I am. These are the activities I do. This is my consciousness. This is my mentality. This is how I use people. This is how I use positions. First of all, it takes some awareness to know it for ourselves and then approach Krishna and give the moral inventory list. And Krishna, I am drowning in this pool of salty water. I am dying of thirst. I have these needs. I have these unmet needs that my parents couldn't fulfill, that my family members cannot fulfill. Krishna, you are that pure water who can quench that thirst. You are my only shelter. And today, I hand over my life and my will into your care. I surrender my weaknesses, my emotions, my thoughts, my desires at your lotus feet. Please accept me so that I don't look for acceptance in salty water locations, which is only going to make me more miserable and which is going to make me more distant from you. So please bring me closer. This is, I want to share a beautiful verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. Dharma swanustita pumcha vishvaksena kata suyah notpadayed yadiratim shramayeva hi kevalam. This verse is very relevant. We all have natures and we engage ourselves according to our nature. And this verse says, the occupational activities a man performs according to his own position are only so much useless labor if they do not provoke attraction for the message of the personality of Godhead. And Prabhupada, in the purport, expresses a few very relevant points. There are different occupational activities in terms of man's different conceptions of life. To the gross materialist who cannot see anything beyond the gross material body, there is nothing beyond the senses. Therefore, his occupational activities are limited to concentrated and extended selfishness. Concentrated selfishness centers around the personal body. This is generally seen amongst the lower animals. Extended selfishness is manifested in human society and centers around family, society, community, nation, and the world, with a view of gross bodily comfort. Above these gross materialists are the mental speculators who hover aloft in the mental spheres, and their occupational duties involve making poetry and philosophy or propagating some ism with the same aim of selfishness, limited to the body and mind. But above the body and mind is the dormant spirit soul, whose absence from the body makes the whole range of bodily and mental selfishness completely null and void. But less intelligent people have no information of the needs of the spirit soul. Actually, this sentence that comes after that, I didn't copy it, but it's so beautiful. If you actually go and read that purport, Prabhupada speaks of an analogy that I can't remember the exact words. But the point here is, again, there are levels of selfishness. And for me, it creeps in even in my devotional activities, because the internal sadhana aspect has to be balanced with the external sadhana aspect. Otherwise, the external sadhana aspect can actually make me proud instead of making me humble. That's why relationships help. Relationships make us humble. Because we become... let's say we realize the powerlessness in relationships, because people have their free will, just as we do. And what does it mean, pure water? What does it mean to look for pure water instead of salty water? The first step is to recognize, to be aware that this is where my mind is slipping. This is where I think that this object or this person can make me feel good. This person can save me, can rescue me from my pain and my suffering. To expect that a particular person will help us to free us from pain is trying to look for salty water to quench the thirst. And the second step after awareness is that willingness. That willingness to be honest, willingness to be open, for Krishna's mercy to flow through, so that all those blocks of negativity I have doesn't block Krishna's mercy. Because the single most person, the single enemy I have that is blocking Krishna's mercy is not the world, it's not the coronavirus, it's not the poverty, it's not that, it's me. I am blocking Krishna's mercy because I am not handing over my life and my will in Krishna's hand. I am not surrendering in the moment of weakness. Real courage is not just going out there and doing external activities of devotion alone. It takes courage, but there's an internal aspect of courage. In the quiet moments when I am chanting, when my mind is jumping up and down, giving me superb ideas about how this salty water can be adjusted. When I am alone and I feel the pain of this material existence, I feel lonely, I feel lost, I feel depressed, I feel uncertain. Where do I take shelter? Who do I take shelter in? And when my mind says, take shelter of this thing, take shelter of that person, am I surrendering or am I going along with my mind? That's where courage actually comes handy. That shows to me where I stand in my devotional service. So when we, through prayer and meditation, connect with Krishna with honesty. Krishna, this is my heart. This is how fallen I am. This is how I feel about my neighbor. This is how I feel about my competitor. Being aware. What helps me personally is journaling. So I cannot escape from my emotions and thoughts. I write it down. This is how miserable I feel today. This is how jealous I feel today. This is how angry I felt today. Krishna, I hand over my anger to you. I am powerless. I don't want to act on my anger. I don't want to act on my jealousy. Please take care of this. That's the stage when our prayers and meditation is there in every step, where we are able to hand over instead of acting on my anger, acting on my lust, acting on my jealousy. I say, Krishna, give me the courage to change my heart, to change my consciousness. Please, Krishna, protect my consciousness. I'm handing over this problem to you. I am powerless over this problem. This is the silent, everyday, Krishna conscious progress that we can do internally, and only we can do that. Our gurus cannot do that for us. Devotees who help us in every stage of our life cannot do that for us, because that's the internal aspect. How honest I'm going to be with myself is my business. And to see Krishna's hand and see that nothing is a difficulty, every situation is an opportunity for me to surrender to Krishna. Surrender not only in times of crisis. Surrender when I think I'm right and they are wrong. Surrender when I think that, I need this escapism. I need to watch this movie. I need to contact this person who doesn't actually want to talk to me, but I want to gain this person's trust. These are the moments that I need to surrender to Krishna. Willingly. Otherwise, Krishna has his way to make me surrender if I don't do it willingly. So when we no longer separate the worldly security with how I am actually feeling, that's the perfect Krishna conscious day or year or life. And there's no difference between external security and internal sadhana and external, that balance. And when I do that, there are moments where there's a silent voice from within. That's Krishna, Paramatma, saying, don't do that. Don't go there. Do this instead. Don't follow that. Don't. So there's a strong voice that becomes more loud than the addictive thirst, the voice of the addictive thirst that traps me. And very important point that's personally helped me is also one day at a time. I have to focus on being Krishna conscious today. Sometimes it's hard. So I think, how can I be Krishna conscious for 1 hour? 1 hour at a time. How can I hand over my emotions to Krishna, my confusion to Krishna, my desires to Krishna, my ambitions to Krishna, my confusion to Krishna? Mind is so full of emotions. And if I can just take every opportunity, every emotion that's causing me disturbance, that's causing me elation, that's causing me pride, if I can just hand over and say, Krishna, please, then I think slowly, that balance starts to occur, and we can actually hear that silent voice of Paramatma instead of the addictive mind that says, go there, there's the dirt there, there's the salty water there. It won't say salty, it just says water. But the salty is the intelligence, we know that it's salty. This morning I heard about this, Srila Prabhupada was speaking about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He wouldn't hear any poetry, any sort of things written by anybody. It had to be approved by Swarup Damodar before it actually came to Lord Chaitanya. And there was an expert scholar, literally knew all the scriptures, very perfect sadhaka on an external level. And he had something for Lord Chaitanya, and he approached Swarup Damodar. And Swarup Damodar saw it, and he found many discrepancies. He didn't allow that to reach Mahaprabhu. He said, this is not good enough. And so Srila Prabhupada was focusing on in this particular class about that importance of internal sadhana element. It's not only the scholarship, it's only not what we know. It's those qualities within the sadhana of building my character, recognizing my character defects, and handing it over to Krishna and saying, Krishna, my scholarship is not going to save me. There's a Bhaja Govindam song, and it says Samprapte sannihite kale nahi nahi rakshati dukring karane nahi nahi rakshati dukring karane bhaja govindam bhaja govindam bhaja govindam bhaja govindam govindam bhaja mudamate. There's actually a song written by Shankaracharya. Even Srila Prabhupada quotes this song. In this paragraph that I just quoted, it says, no matter how scholarly we are, how much I know, that grammar is not going to save me at the time of death. And we can replace grammar with so many other addictive salty water that we run after. We could say a particular relationship, my wealth, my fame, my position. It's not going to save me at the time of death. And what saves me? Bhaja Govindam, to chant Govinda's name, not only externally but internally. To replace my confusion with handing over that confusion to Krishna. Having a weakness is not the problem, but trying to fix it by myself is a problem. If I don't Bhaja Govindam, if I don't offer that to Krishna and say, Krishna, today all I have is my confusion. My state of mind today is confusion. So I'm going to offer that to you. Please protect my consciousness, because my consciousness is precious. I need to think about you, and this confusion I have, this anger I have, this lust I have, this jealousy I have is blocking me. Sometimes that is all it takes for me to get over one day. I write down in my journal every day, today how much did I hand over? How much percentage? And from 0 to 10, how willing was I to let Krishna's will to take over today? And how much did I want to fix it? How much did I surrender? Or did I act on those negative emotions? That's the Krishna consciousness of that day. So I usually try to I'm really getting a lot from this idea of being one day at a time. Being Krishna consciousness for one day. I don't have to think about next all year. We should think, because 2021 is coming soon, we should think of how we want our Krishna consciousness to be, but the struggle. When I'm struggling, I shouldn't be thinking so many things. Just for today, how can I be Krishna conscious? That helps. So those are some points. I think this clock doesn't work, is it? It's stuck, I think. What time is it? Yeah, it doesn't work. The clock doesn't work. It's very misleading. I kept going, and you see, the mind knew that it's not moving, but I was still thinking, oh, there's time. So that's some things I wanted to share. If you have any comments, questions, please. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the class. Your idea, like that, just, be
I cannot hear somehow.
Your idea that just let Krishna's will, just, like as in your day, you're living the day, isn't it? Like you're living the day. And you're living your day in the day, and then you're just accepting Krishna's will. Like this is Krishna's will, that's Krishna's will. What happens will be Krishna's will, and you're saying, how much can I give to Krishna? How much can Krishna do? And I was thinking, like, isn't that a little passive? Is it a little bit too passive? Like, you want to achieve something, you have to do it. No, I was thinking like this. Like you have to use your intelligence, use your mind, use your senses. You have to make something happen to. Otherwise, passiveness, isn't it? Isn't it like, just, okay, whatever Krishna does, it'll happen, and whatever Krishna will be. And like, is it too passive? Or?
Okay, so if I understood your question correctly, your understanding was that I was recommending like a passive way of surrendering to Krishna without acting on focusing on our actions. Okay. First of all, it's not exactly what I said. It's not about, passively just go about your day. It's not exactly what I said. What I said is the internal aspect of sadhana. There may be a lot of negative emotions, and it's not easy to just say, I'm going to just pull out this whatever negative emotion I have, anger, and I'm just going to throw it into the river. It's not something I can do with my muscles. There's only one way, surrender to Krishna. Because when all these emotions attack simultaneously, anger, confusion, greed, jealousy, lust, all these things together, it's very hard to even separate and see what is actually happening in my mind. Why do I feel so miserable? So my point was speaking on the aspect of internal aspect of sadhana, surrender one day at a time, surrendering even sometimes one thought at a time. And about the word passive, When we say passive, it sounds like a negative thing. But surrender doesn't sound like a negative thing. And surrender is passive. Surrender is saying, Krishna, I am powerless. I am powerless over my character defects. I am powerless over my negativity. Because in my experience, as a psychotherapist, as an astrologer, in my personal life, sometimes we beat ourselves up too much for our negativity. We may think, I'm responsible that I'm so terrible. We are, to some extent. But what we are actually responsible is not for who we are. It's what I'm going to do today. It's what I'm going to become. Or even that is actually up to Krishna. But the point is, surrender is the process of our philosophy. It's being an instrument. An instrument. Is it passive? In itself? Yes. But when we become an instrument in the hands of Guru, in the hands of Krishna, it works. So, being an instrument, is it a passive thing? It depends on our mentality, it depends on the perspective we see. And my understanding of Krishna conscious philosophy is the more passive in this context of being surrendered, being humble and just being an instrument of Krishna, the more powerful we are. The more I think, I know how to distribute more books, I know how to preach better, I don't want to follow Guru, Sadhu or Shastra, I don't want to, but I will come up with my own idea of how tasty I can make the salt water sometimes. I am in trouble. But the moment I become an instrument in the right hands, that's Krishna. Krishna, please use me as an instrument. Then magic happens. And I mean, the whole point of the talk today, the whole point of this verse and my understanding of the verse, the first song that I quoted about lifetimes that we've taken going in search of this salty water, the desire, the right desire. So in passivity, what is the desire? Is it to be lazy? Then of course it's not the right thing. But if it is about Asha klesha dosha vimba abdi olu mulugi yamana pasha kwalagaga de nirdoshiyagu santoshiyagu Asha klesha dosha. So if my desires are leading me to be very active, but it's my desires that is leading me to be active, that's worse than being passive in the Krishna consciousness. I mean, not worse. Let me say, that's going to get me in trouble. So instead of that material desire, it's better to be passive. And then, of course, when we are talking about Krishna conscious desires, passive is not the right word we would use there. But in terms of material desires, yes, better to be passive than act on the material desire of illusion or lust or greed or envy. Asha, klesha, dosha. Because it's full of faults anyway. Material desires are full of faults anyway. But when I say focusing on my day, I don't mean just sitting down or just let whatever happens today, I'll let it be. I follow the daily program, I do my chanting, I take association, I study Srimad Bhagavatam. I do it, but according to the authorized process. I don't speculate, or I don't think how I can fix things. Or the main thing I think today, if you want to take away one point from the class, I don't deny the fact of where I am today in Krishna consciousness. I don't try to fool myself thinking, oh, I am a very great devotee because I did all these things. But instead become passive and say, Krishna, these are the anarthas I'm having in my heart, and I surrender them to you. So, yeah, if we're talking about passivity, which is Tranadapi shunichena, tarorapi sahishnuna, or if we're talking about Aslishava padaratam pinastu mama darshanam marmahatam karotuva. So both these verses, one speaks about being humbler than a blade of grass. Is that passive? It's humility. So it's the word we use. Aslishyava padavatam pinastumama darshanam. Krishna, do whatever you want with me. Do anything with me. Is it being passive? It's being humble. So there is we can use the vocabulary, we can see it from different aspects. Yes, Prabhu.
How do we know that Krishna is using us as an instrument? How do we know that it's Krishna doing and not us?
Good question. Very good question. We cannot know. That's why we have Guru. That's why we have scriptures. And that's why we have sadhus. We have association of devotees. They can help us. They can tell us if we are on track. Very good question. Yeah. Very important actually. Otherwise we can speculate, as Srila Prabhupada is saying here. Yeah. Thank you. It's 9 o'clock. I guess we will officially end here, but we'll take the question and...
Mataji, one question. Thank you for a wonderful class. So my question is that during the course you told that sadhana itself will not help us, take over, pride and envy and all that. But if we see that only, you said that if internally it's not, you have to clean yourself internally. If you're doing japa, you're doing service to sadhu, doing deity worship, whatever. But we see that only after bhajan kriya this anartha nivritti will happen. So is it not contradictory that just, if you're doing it, it will not happen? Because...
Thank you. Thank you. Very good question. So if I understood your question correctly, you said that isn't sadhana part of anartha nivritti, and first is bhajana kriya and only then we have to actually look into our weaknesses. It's a very good question. Now, as I said, I didn't say sadhana itself is not enough, okay? I said there are two aspects of sadhana. Even in bhajana kriya, there's internal and external. One thing is to say Hare Krishna, but what I'm thinking is also part of bhajan. So I was trying to focus on that other aspect, which is harder to detect, which is the internal aspect of what motivation, what consciousness am I doing it? We are an international society for Krishna, consciousness. So where is my consciousness? Where is actually my mind? My lips might be chanting Krishna, 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 Krishna. My mind might be thinking salty water, salty water, salty water. And that happens. That can happen. So yes, your point about devotional service itself is enough and we don't need to particularly dissect our character defects and fix it. That's true. However, the openness, the willingness, the honesty will be tested every single day of our life. If I'm doing devotional service in the kitchen, deity kitchen, there's going to be so many devotees working around me. There can be clashes. There can be personality differences. I may say I'm doing pure devotional service here, I'm washing Panchatattva's pot. Somebody comes and says, Prabhu, you cannot wash here. And Prabhu, you did this wrong and you did that wrong and you're supposed to go there and you're supposed to do this. What is my internal bhajan state when that happens? So we will be pushed to take care of it. So we cannot separate our sadhana to only external things. We cannot say I'm doing sadhana if I'm only doing external things. Because Krishna, even through those external things, will test our internal sadhana. Simple thing, Mangalarti, I'm standing and somebody stands in a particular way, or when we used to have those cross marks, right? We would be standing in the cross mark, somebody will come and stand there and the guard will ask us to move. So that shows where is my internal sadhana. Am I thinking of Radha Madhava, or I'm thinking that person is not standing in the cross? That happened to me. So then I realized my sadhana bhakti, my bhajana kriya is not focused on Radha Madhava. Why that guard didn't tell anything to her and why did he tell me? So these things will be put on our path. So that was the idea of today's class. We have to balance the two. Because if I just go at my speed, I only do my thing, I chant, I do my service. If he has a problem, how I wash my pot, it's his problem. I'm going to leave a mess in his sink and I'm going to keep my sink clean. You see, it could one sense fit into my sadhana, but as Prabhupada says here, selfishness can extend to different levels and layers. right? Me, mine, my family, my society, my community. So even internally there can be those levels. My service. But then we forget, there's this very funny scene of, there were some silly, like foolish kind of students of a guru in the Gurukul, it was the olden times. They were massaging the feet of the guru. And these students were very immature. So at one point, one of the students said, you see my leg is so shiny, yours is very old and it has all marks on it. And the other fellow said, no, my leg is better, yours is, you see, thinner, mine is like very plumpy. And at one point they start fighting so much that one fellow takes a hammer and he's about to hit the leg of the guru that the other student is serving. And he's saying, my leg is better than your leg. And then that moment the guru wakes up and says, you stupid foolish fellows, that's my leg, it's not your leg, nor is it your leg, it's my leg. So sometimes we may get into, this is my Prabhupada, this is what Prabhupada said, and somebody else says, but this is also what Prabhupada said. No, it becomes like a fight between the brothers, for this is my leg, that is my leg. So in that time we can actually see, where is my bhajana? Where is my mind? So bhajana it's not very black and white to say, oh, that person is doing very nice bhajan, we don't know what's going on inside. Or somebody is not doing proper bhajan, but we don't know internally how advanced that person might be. So the internal aspect of bhajan is subtle, and that was the point of today's.
Yeah, Mataji, so you are talking more on the behavioral side, that his behavior will be like that, but the point remains that, if we are not doing sadhana, our anartha will never happen. So that
sadhana is definitely important. So, there's no question about it.
So that's where, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said the Cheto Darpan margin. So only if we do bhajan,
exactly,
then only the cleaning, we will have anarthas, but sadhana we have to continue. Internal will happen later, that is all, but externally we have to continue.
Definitely.
Thank you.
There's no. So thank you. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you for the class. I would like to read something in support of what you were saying before about offering things to Krishna. This is from Bhakti Sandarbha of Srila Jiva Goswami, Anucheda 217. It is therefore recommended in the scriptures that everyone offer all their mundane activities to the Supreme Lord in one way or the other. Such offering of activity enables one to attain the perfection of all religion. In this regard, Srila Sridhar Swami says in his commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam 11.2.36 that one should offer all activities that are motivated by one's consciousness and ego. Activity in this context does not mean only those activities that are sanctioned by and enjoined in the scriptures. Rather, one should offer all activities arising out of one's nature, even though such activities may be mundane. The Bhagavad Gita 9.27 also speaks about the same principle. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, and whatever austerities you perform, do that, O son of Kunti, as an offering to me. A similar understanding is given, there is some Sanskrit, in relation to my life heirs, intelligence, body, and religious knowledge, whether in dreams, deep sleep, or in a fully awakened state of existence, whatever I have thought of using my mind or spoken using my sense of speech or performed using my hands, legs, stomach, and genitals, I offer all that to Lord Sri Krishna in sacrifice. Everything I possess, including my own self, I now offer to Lord Hari. In this context, there are two ways of offering sinful activities rooted in one's inherent nature. The first way is adopted and practiced by those aspiring to be jnanis who do not distinguish between the so-called good and bad activities. They deal with sinful activities by being indifferent to them and not seeing themselves as the doer of such activities. The second way is adopted and practiced by those aspiring for devotional service. The devotees see the inherent suffering present within such sinful activities and cry out to the Lord, requesting Him to be merciful upon them. Thus they pray as follows. Unintelligent persons have unflinching affection for the objects of sense gratification. Similarly, may I always remember you, so that the same attachment applied to you never leaves my heart. Vishnu Purana 1:20-19. As the young minds of young girls take pleasure in thinking of a young boy, and those of young boys take pleasure in thinking of a young girl, may my mind take pleasure in you. This is from Padma Purana. In this way, the devotee prays, whatever attraction I have for pious or sinful activities, let all that attachment be wholeheartedly redirected towards the nectarine topics of the Supreme Lord. In this way, those who are still within the grips of mundane desires should by all means offer their sinful activities to the Supreme Lord.
Wow, beautiful, powerful. Wow, great. Thank you so much for sharing. Can you say, where is it from again?
Bhakti Sandarbha of Jiva Goswami, Anucheda 217.
October 7.
217.
217 Bhakti Sandarbha. Thank you. Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.